You. You're fine.
Shut your fucking mouth!
And speaking of Elder Scrolls, I don't know what you can say, but are you guys going to do an Elder Scrolls 6?
I mean, that's kind of like the elephant in the room always when we talk about anything. And, you know, I think it's good to, in these moments, to tell our fans, yes, of course we are. Be careful what I say. It's a very long way off. I could sit here and explain the game to you, and you would say, that sounds like you don't even have the technology. How long is that going to take? And so it's something that is going to take a lot of time, what we have in mind for that game.
Oh my god. I like audibly gasped and started like shaking in my bed when I saw this information. Xbox has bought Bethesda. Like outright, they've bought Bethesda. So they own Wolfenstein, Doom, Prey, Dishonored, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Starfield.
Since we're on the topic of Elder Scrolls 6, what can you tell me about
Nothing.
where it's at?
I've never heard of it.
Lessons you've learned from
I said pretend we
Starfield.
never announced it. I said pretend we
Starfield.
never announced it.
Oh, hi there. I was just sitting here playing Coconut Simulator, thinking about the Elder Scrolls 6. You know, as one does. 2028. That's the year the Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out, right? I mean, it may be later with the recent layoffs, but Jason Schreier has pretty much killed the idea of it coming out any earlier. I mean, some schizos on the subreddit still think it might, but we'll talk about that later. Who gives a fuck? Now, if you bust out your calculator and do some quick math, you'll realize that that is at least 17 years since the last mainline Elder Scrolls. 17 fucking years! What makes that noteworthy is that it is the same amount of time between the first Elder Scrolls game and Skyrim. Bethesda released Arena, fully developed and released Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim in the time it has taken for Test 6 to come out. And that's if we're lucky. It might be later. Now, I know this isn't an original observation. Everyone and their grandpappy has pointed this out, but for good reason. We will have been waiting a long time, 17 years, for the next Elder Scrolls. But far, far, far more importantly, Xbox will have waited 8 years. So what the fuck happened? How is this possible? How in the world did Bethesda, and more importantly Xbox, allow this to happen? I mean, people like to joke that Todd put all his points into charisma, but like, holy shit, what did he say to Phil Spencer? Before we talk about the how, I think we should talk about the why. Bethesda Game Studios have always had more of a progressive developer environment. They don't view themselves as some video game factory, but a collective of artists going on a creative endeavor. They don't crunch, they have very little turnover, and most developers report being really happy at the studio. How awful. I mean, they're one of the few major game studios that are unionized. They even made a fucking memorial for all their fallen employees, which is a little odd, but... So when developers don't want to just keep working on the same two franchises over and over and branch into other creative endeavors, say a multiplayer game or a sci-fi RPG, it is greatly encouraged in the studio. They do that because they don't want to burn out. This all sounds great, I'm sure, but the thing is, gamers don't really want this. They don't want to wait a long time between releases. They definitely don't want something outside of the established franchises. They want the video game factory. They want Bethesda to be like Rockstar, hiring and overworking thousands of employees going back and forth between their major franchises. But Bethesda is not Rockstar. They will never be Rockstar, at least not until Todd Howard is slain. Now this is only half the problem. Well, actually, it's none of the problem. This would be fine if they didn't hold on to their franchises for dear fucking life. It seems one major tenet of Bethesda's creative environment is creative control. They want Bethesda Game Studios stamped on all things related to their franchises. Of course, with Fallout, this makes about as much sense as putting your dick in a blender. They did not create Fallout, they bought it. They simply had a lot of money in the early 2000s. Half the mainline Fallout games are not even made by them. The Elder Scrolls is a Bethesda created IP, sure, but created by people who haven't worked there for over 30 years. There's no real reason for Bethesda to be holding on to the Elder Scrolls and Fallout tooth and nail like they are. It's actually kind of common for a major established franchise to go between multiple developers, especially RPGs. Think KOTOR, Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, and oh yeah, Fallout. Combine this with the whole sissy liberal, good and fair working conditions for developers, and you end up where we are now. 17 fucking years. So leaving Fallout and Elder Scrolls to collect dust is obviously fucking stupid, but so what? It's what Todd Howard wants. And pre-2020 at Bethesda, Todd Howard was big guy, which coincidentally is what my uncle used to make me call him. Todd wasn't the CEO, but he was obviously a very influential person who was the key figure leading the company to massive success. So he earned the right to do what he wants. In those old interviews, Pete Hines sounded like he would trust Todd and his team to perform brain surgery on him. But after the Xbox acquisition, Todd was no longer big guy, just like my uncle, who's now in prison. He was just one of the many studio heads under the Xbox umbrella, charged with the task of making Xbox loads of money. So again, I ask, what the fuck happened? I'm gonna be honest, I think what this boils down to is Phil Spencer is just kind of a nice guy. Phil Spencer is a Microsoft boy. He's been at the company since he was 20. His entire career consists of Microsoft and Xbox. So unsurprisingly, when Phil Spencer became the head of Xbox in 2014, he employed the tried and true strategy that Microsoft and most major companies know. Nom 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 nom. Just fucking buy everything. Buy Skype. Buy LinkedIn. They had already bought Minecraft. I didn't even know until making this video that Microsoft owns GitHub. What? Why come up with your own ideas when you can just buy them? During his tenure, Philly Boy bought studios like Ninja Theory, Double Fine, inXile, Obsidian, ZeniMax, Activision Blizzard, and a lot more. But that's what Microsoft does. It was Phil's job to do that. But I genuinely think at some point, old Philly Boy started to kind of feel bad. I get the impression that with Bethesda in particular, he felt guilty. He didn't want to create anxiety in the studios. He wanted them to like him. So he made it very clear that these studios he bought would remain mostly autonomous, retaining full creative control, and Xbox would only be there to lend a helping hand when needed. The problem with this is that studios will then do what they believe is in their interest, not necessarily in the interest of Xbox. Which is kind of a problem when you're the head of Xbox and you just spent $7.5 billion fucking dollars. Phil wanted to create a culture of trust in everyone's new Xbox overlord. He wanted Todd and everyone else to think of him as their little buddy. This is why Fallout wasn't given to another studio, even though apparently Obsidian wanted it. And this is why Xbox has sat on their hands and waited so many years for Bethesda to finally deliver on the Elder Scrolls. Of course, that's all over now. They gunned down Phil in the streets. They shot him. He's dead. Okay, that's fine. So now we have a new CEO, Asha Sharma. And the good thing about that is that she can approach this whole thing from a different angle. She didn't buy all these studios. She inherited them. They aren't individual entities. They are just the Xbox studios, and they need to be coordinated to make the most amount of money as possible for the company. Her hands are completely clean, and boy, oh boy, are they ready to be bloodied. She seems much more willing to do what has to be done to make the Xbox brand competitive again. Whether what has to be done is what she's doing remains to be seen, of course, but she's essentially doing exactly what fans have been asking for. Myself included, though I'm not an Xbox fan. All right, let's be clear about that. There are actually reports that some Xbox employees are saying she spends too long on Twitter, which, yeah, I'm worried about her too if that's the case. She's seen the hype around the Fallout show and the anxiety for a new game it has created. She's seen the articles every year condemning Bethesda for another trip around the sun with no news on the Elder Scrolls 6. She's probably even seen the Test 6 subreddit. Oh my god, has she seen the Test? This subreddit is the direct result of Todd's folly. It is what happens when a community is left with nothing other than a 30-second teaser trailer for years. It is where you'll find the most desperate, degenerate delinquents in all of the community. And how can you blame them? When Todd has starved you of the Elder Scrolls 6 you need to live, you create your own Elder Scrolls 6. At first it's simple cope, then it becomes delusion, then pure insanity. Remember when Game Awards Joff posted about that stupid statue in the middle of the desert? They lost their fucking minds over it. Of course, it wasn't Test 6, it was Larian's new game, but before we knew that. Doubt all you wish. I cannot find any other existing IP lore that has as many references to this statue than the Elder Scrolls. I am still on the side of it being Elder Scrolls related. Maybe not Test 6, blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's Larian's new game. I consider this, but the turnaround for a new Larian game would be too quick to get the same quality as that of BG3. Just because the statue ain't Test 6 doesn't mean we won't see it. Let me cope, let me cope! Jeff knew that the statue, Todd Howard, and unexpected announcement were gonna make us keep watching. He's fucking with us. He's in my head. Get out of my head, man. Get out of my head! And oh boy, did the hype come back for the summer showcase. They grieved that showcase. Todd, I don't want it anymore. I genuinely hate how these rich-ass devs have so much control over our emotions. Without us, they wouldn't have anything. As someone who has legitimately cried over the wait for Test 6 several times. Okay, look, I know most of these posts are just jokes, but are they? Here's a step-by-step guide on how to cope with waiting for the Elder Scrolls 6. Or you could just, like, live your life and not think about ES this much. It would be healthier that way, for sure. Do you realize how lazy you are? You mock someone for wearing their heart on their sleeve. At least they have passion about something. Thank God they're focusing more on tests, because I genuinely worry for some of these folk. I think another 17-year wait for the Elder Scrolls will probably kill them, or at least have them end up in an insane asylum. Yeah, alright. Who cares? Russian politician Vladimir Lenin once said, "There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen." I think he was talking about Bethesda when he said that. Xbox have made some moves recently. Fallout is going to Obsidian again, and apparently they want to shift more focus to Bethesda's major franchises. Of course, laying off a large chunk of BGS and an even larger chunk of the Elder Scrolls Online's development team seems like that's doing the opposite, because it is. But at least for the Elder Scrolls, I don't think Xbox is talking about immediate changes. I think they're discussing long-term approaches to the franchise. When Xbox says Elder Scrolls, they mean Skyrim, not ESO. They're saying Elder Scrolls 6 took 17 fucking years, and that will not happen again. After Test 6 releases, I'm sure Xbox is going to have a long talk with Todd about how they're going to get the next game out the door as quickly as humanly possible. But for now, it seems BGS is going to move forward with making Fallout 5 after Elder Scrolls 6 and will mostly retain control over the franchise, apparently collaborating with Obsidian on their game. This makes sense to me. I don't expect Xbox to make some major sweeping changes just yet. Although, I can't imagine a hypothetical world where this new Fallout project does very well, and the Elder Scrolls 6 underperforms. In this scenario, I'm not sure what would happen, but recent news seems to suggest that Xbox's new management cares more about IP and the value that can be extracted from them than the studios who created them. Xbox may figure that more value can be extracted from tests and Fallout with someone at the wheel other than legendary game director Todd Howard. And given Bethesda's recent track record, I don't think this is too unlikely. Scary stuff, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I really hope the Elder Scrolls 6 is good. Not even for myself, but for those poor souls on the subreddit. All I can say for certain is that Bethesda has absolutely mismanaged their major franchises over the past decade, and Xbox is done waiting for the Elder Scrolls.
Fabulous. That's great. Good for you.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think any of this will actually work out for Xbox. They're pretty well fucked and have been for a long time. They'll find a way to screw this up. I have faith. As intelligent and in touch as Asha may seem, she was still hired by Microsoft. So there's gotta be something wrong with her. As for Todd, I'm sure he's not happy right now. I mean, I don't know Todd personally. Well, actually I do. But the point is, maybe he's a chill guy. Maybe he doesn't actually care. He's certainly acting like it with his, we felt this was the right time to collaborate with Obsidian again, yada yada. But he has actively pushed away Obsidian, other developers working on Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, for a long time now. It's ironic that New Vegas, the game that's success is undeniably the reason that Asha and Xbox have taken Fallout from Todd's greedy little hands, is a game about letting go. I've wanted Bethesda to give Obsidian another crack at Fallout for a long time, and they never did. At least not until they were forced to. I don't understand it. Never mind the obvious money they could make, what did they expect? That they would hold on to it forever? That it would die with them? Todd was going to have to let go of Fallout and the Elder Scrolls at some point. Todd isn't going to be working forever. His team is not going to be Bethesda Game Studios forever. They were going to have to let go at some point. It's a shame that they have now seemingly been forced to. And who knows, maybe Todd actually put all his points in luck and not charisma, and Obsidian's new Fallout is going to crash and burn. In which case, he can just lean back, laugh, and say, I told you so.
Who's laughing now?
Jason Skrier is incorrect.